I'm Dr. Sarita, and I'd like to talk with you about some getting started tips in your weight loss journey. So basically, I am a 56-year-old woman. I have been yo-yo dieting my whole life. I'm a former fat person. I also have an MD and an MPH. I have a master's of public health and a doctoral degree. So I should know everything about how to lose weight, right? Wrong. Who knew everything about how to keep healthy? The great-grandparents, the grandparents. That's who knew. I was just talking with a lovely client today, and she said, these doctors, they go back and forth, and you can find anything on the internet. Oh, fruit is good, fruit is bad, sugar's good, sugar's bad, fat's good, fat's bad, da-da-da-da, but let's face it, let's think about something here. Who really did the science around eating? Not my profession. My ancestors did the science. The grandparents did the science. The grocers did the science. The people who were involved in food production, who fed families, those are the people we should be listening to. It's all fine that there's, every other day, oh, here's a study that did this. And you know what it all comes back to? It all comes back to how my great-grandparents ate. And if your great-grandparents and my great-grandparents met each other in the 1940s or 50s, they didn't have these problems. They were effortlessly thin. Why? Because we hadn't ruined their diet. The doctors hadn't wrecked what we ate. And the doctors were, I thought I was watching a movie when I went to medical school, but I was really watching a series of ads. And I did not know where these ads came from. I was just a young person, and I was like, I got to memorize all this stuff. I'm trusting these people. They must have, they're doctors. They mean well. And most of them did mean well. Okay. And I meant well. And I was a useful idiot in this system. So what was this system? The food pyramid. Okay. The thing that happened in the 1970s where there was, breads, pasta, cereals at the bottom, meat, butter, fats and oils, and like sweets. But breads and pastas and whole grain breads were the bulk of our diet. Okay. So that had been ingrained into me so long that I was so confused about how to eat. So there's the amount of carbs, which has massively gone up, and the fat that has gone down. Okay. Now, another big confusion is, there's no diet in just saying, hey, eat like your great-grandparents, right? There's no money in just saying, hey, find some old cookbooks. These are from a thrift store. I find some old cookbooks, preferably even from the 50s. Find cookbooks before we did all this food pyramid crap, and use those and go back through the index card book of recipes that's probably somewhere in your mom or grandmother's house, and look at those recipes and eat like that, and eat real food less frequently. Because the tough thing is there's zero money in that, right? There is zero money. Of course, there's a lot of money in people being stressed out and unable to cook their food and then eating fast food. And this was replaced with fast food in my life. And the cost was my health. I got degrees, I passed tests, I did all these multiple choice things, I memorized all these things. But boy, I wish I had 2 weeks with my grandmother, my great-grandmother. I wish I could just have 2 weeks with her and just sit down and absorb her cooking. And I can't. I look back to my ex-mother-in-law. She wanted to pass along traditions to me. I was so exhausted. I was so tired. I really didn't value these traditions either. I was taught that these traditions were bad, that the fat was bad in that cooking. I was even being taught in medical school that olive oil was bad. I mean, terrible advice. I was being taught butter was bad, olive oil was bad, all these things. Well, so essentially, I'm not asking you to believe any new thing, but think about the couple points here. People in Europe don't look like people in the United States. People in Japan don't look like people in the United States. Why? Well, those countries, European countries, France, Japan, they did not adopt the food pyramid. They kept with their ancestral traditions. Those women were stubborn. They weren't changing. They were like, screw this. I'm having my food. I'm not doing this. I'm not, we American women, we're nice. We're like, oh, hey, doctors. Oh, well, and again, this is also, I think about my mother meant so well. She was in her 20s. And I remember her, being terrified about how my great-grandparents cooked and all the fat they were eating. And she meant well. She thought she was protecting me. Fast forward, I'm in med school. I'm learning everything fat is bad. I'm thinking, my kids need to have skim milk. My kids shouldn't have whole-fat dairy. My kids shouldn't have meat with the fat on it. Everything's got to be low-fat. The very thing I was pushing on my kids from my medical education was the very thing that harmed them and harmed me. And so there you go. So let's go. There's no new thing. There's no, oh, doctors have done some study, because this is how medicine works. You isolate a compound, then you market it, right? How did our grandparents work? They knew a tradition of these are the patterns of how we ate the food. This is stuff that worked, that fed a family. No one died. Okay. And then when you look at all these studies, oh, it's backwards. All these studies, well, I'm fine to look at studies, but like, why do I need to look at that? I've read enough scientific papers, and I'm happy to read them. And it is nice to know that stuff is rooted in science. But everything I read now, it's like, gee, my great-grandparents were right. The people in Europe that didn't adopt the food pyramid were right. Because where did the food pyramid come from? If you've seen the movie Idiocracy, that's kind of like where the food pyramid came from. The food pyramid did not come from well-meaning doctors. The food pyramid came from industry. The food pyramid came from the people that developed military rations. This was not about health. This was about marketing. It's sad, but it is what it is. And now we can go on. We can reclaim our heritage. We can reclaim our eating. And I'd like to talk with you in the next video about timing and some patterns of eating. Well, thank you for your time and attention. And old is gold. I hope this has been helpful. There is hope. You don't have to get fat as you age. That's a myth. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great one. Bye-bye.